Yeah. So what's going on? I don't want to divide it as cleanly as like male type autism and female type autism. That's
Mhm.
not really true, and certainly have a number of male bodied clients who manifest more the way we think of female autism, right?
Mhm.
Um, and vice versa. But a lot of what happens with girls, they certainly are less likely to fit that stereotype of, I don't know, the boy who is constantly talking about their special interests, is going to tell you every single thing that there has ever been true about construction equipment, or um, and seems kind of oblivious to other people's responses, and maybe a little bit not caring, right? Like, sort of like, well, this is how I am, and this is what I like, and if
Yeah,
I'm not into it, I don't care. Like, you know, I'll go find somebody who wants to talk about that.
sure.
Um, that is much less true of girls or female-bodied people. I want to make that
Mm.
distinction because uh, there's also, it's much more common for autistic people to be trans or non-binary,
Hmm.
to experience gender differently. Yeah. And so that can be part of that feeling of like, I don't feel right in my body, or I don't feel like this is my body, um, or I experience some kind of mismatch with my physical
Yeah.
form. Gender can be an aspect of that. But so when someone looks at someone and thinks they're a girl, um, they're generally seeing someone who's been, trained, just socialized to try and get along with others, and, to express interest in what others are doing. Um, and, so one of the pressures that falls more on female bodied people is that they are expected to be able to navigate social situations, with more grace. they're uh, they're expected to be more adept at that, more tuned in than their male
Mhm.
peers. So that is an extra layer of pressure that can become overwhelming for these teen girls, and then they also have an internal pressure, right? To mask, to get along, to not let anyone know what's going on with them, and they tend to observe really well how other people are interacting, and then play it out like a script. So, often the
Hmm.
experience is like they're taking on a role. Um, in fact, might feel very comfortable being an actress, being on stage, because taking a
Hmm.
role has come so easily. They're watching how other people do it, how other girls are doing it, and then they're doing all the same things, which is one of the reasons nobody knows. That inside they feel very, very different. So they tend to be socialized to be better at masking, rewarded for masking, uh, and then expected to behave differently. And with boys, just culturally, traditionally, we've allowed a much wider range. For boys, it's far more acceptable to be obsessive about their special interests. Um,
Hmm.
I have two boys myself, and their ages 9 and 6. And when they get together with their other little boy friends, they're obsessively talking about Pokemon, and sometimes other video games, right? But like this deep obsession, and it's all they talk about, and it's not considered unusual, right?
Mhm.
Already at about this age that my 9-year-old is, that is much less common among girls, where previously they might. Um, and there are sort of like girl interests, right? Like maybe they can
Mhm.
talk excessively about Harry Potter, but even now that's starting to be rejected by their peers.
Mhm.
Of like,
Mhm.
you know, so um, so neurotypical and neurodivergent boys have a lot of space to be, kind of focused on single things, and dive deep into their special interests and talk a lot about it and find communities. You know, um, my brothers played, different video games. They also played Dungeons and Dragons, right? Like, where that's really supported, and that has not traditionally been supported. It's been much harder
Mhm.
for girls to get by socially if what they really want to do is talk about special interests.
Mhm.
Um, and it may be Disney princesses and it may be horses and it may be things that are socially acceptable, but the level at which they want to focus in on it is typically not well supported for girls.
So would it be fair to say then um, negative consequences or even trauma that occurs to somebody who is undiagnosed or doesn't realize that they have these autistic traits or neuroatypical traits is that because of the social pressures of the environments that they find themselves in, they start to adapt to it through like heuristics, basically, right? Like kind of figuring out how to fit the expectations of others. And then that comes at the expense of their own well being, energy. Um, that makes sense. I guess I'd be curious how you think about what a sort of healthy balance is then, because if you're a part of a society or a family, it's a little, it's always a little bit of give and take, right? So
Exactly.
how do you help clients figure out what the right balance is between asking other people to meet them where they are versus being willing to meet other people at those different levels?
Yeah. Um, you're right. And that will always be there will need to be some level of adaptation
Hmm.
for sure. And so the strategies we talk about are like finding the safe places, the safe
Hmm.
people, the safe places where you can be yourself. Um, the first step when you say like, how much do you ask people to meet me where I am? The first step is to explain where you are. You know,
Mm.
that the people who love you and have been near to you probably have no concept of where you are, of what life is like for you. And so first explaining where you are, what types of things are really hard for you. Um, Also, if you're talking about this in a workplace, you might not be
Hmm.
vulnerable like that, but, um, I do encourage people to say, so I struggle with this in particular, and this makes me really good at this. Like
Mm.
to, focus on strengths also, the superpowers that
Hmm.
neurodiversity brings.